Assalamualaikum everyone. Welcome to Coffee with Ustaz. I'm your host Indra Sahip.
I'm Mubarak, Shah.
Welcome. We would like to welcome all our viewers and our listeners to our Coffee with Ustaz Podcast.
Have
And for
some
those,
coffee. Have some coffee.
yeah. Tafadhal. And for those who appreciate our content, feel free to buy us coffee.
Yeah, please.
Feel free to buy us coffee. The link is at below our discussion video at www.buymeacoffee.com/snmtve. And without further ado, I would like to introduce our beloved Ustaz Anwar Hussain. Ahlan wa sahlan, Ustaz.
Ahlan
Ahlan wa sahlan, jazakumullah khair.
MashaAllah.
It's always very exciting when I come here.
Yeah.
It's like always something new to discuss,
Yeah, I mean, talking about something new. Today we're going to talk about empirical laws.
Wow. What is
Okay,
empirical?
the word empirical itself, right? I have to be honest with you.
I feel like I'm in a lab already.
I'm a bit foreign.
Okay.
I know you are. I know you're kind of a science geek.
Science
Yeah,
guy.
you're a science geek, right?
Science guy.
So, maybe you want to share with our viewers what is empirical itself means.
I think definition will be problem. Better we take out the Cambridge dictionary to give a
So
proper definition.
it's an Oxford definition.
It's a proper definition of things lah. But I think it's definitely like a study of methodology to discover how do I say it? Empirical. How is that? Maybe you can give
Census.
Shah.
Census,
Empirical, and it has relation with the census and observation.
MashaAllah. But the word itself is so great. And I think for common folks out there, how can we define further?
I think
As a start before we go into this topic.
I think it's just it revolves around science.
If in Malay, right? If in Malay, it's quite easy, right? We talk about because empirical translation to the Malay language will be adat. I think adat. Things that I think we can relate to, like
repetition
or culture or things that that is a norm, right? So when talk about empirical, I think it's very very cheap, like.
Yeah.
Maybe
Unless you go to like science school and you probably come across it. I've been so long I haven't seen science textbook.
Now currently.
Very long already, bro. I think like 10 years I haven't opened science textbook.
Wow, I mean, just want to share, Ustaz, because recently I spoke to my my nephew, right, who's in primary 6, and he shared to me because he's also a science geek. He get first in class for science.
Wow.
And he get bursary, everything.
Wow.
So surprisingly, at his age, he understand the theory of Big Bang theory, black hole theory. He even tell me, Uncle Indra, got white hole theory. Got white hole theory. And people no longer talk about black hole theory. People talk about white hole theory. Wow.
Interesting. And there's so many theories, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, at the age of 12, no, bro.
Yeah.
I don't study all that.
Yeah. And in our times, I never study all that. Yeah.
Okay, maybe we start with the discussion where we open this discussion.
What is this theory all about, basically?
Right?
Yeah.
Definitely. We open this discussion to our beloved Ustaz. Maybe he can elaborate further on Hukumul Adi, which is the empirical laws. Tafadhal, Ustaz.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa man wala. So inshallah ta'ala, today we're going to speak about, in Arabic, we call it Ahkamul Ada. This is where Al-Imam Sanusi, he mentioned after he spoke about Hukm Shari. So in our previous episodes, he was speaking about the Sharia law, and we have covered the definition and some of the categories within that definition. Today, inshallah, we proceed to speak about Ahkamul Ada, which is translated into English as the empirical laws. So what is the meaning of Ahkamul Ada? And in the Islamic perspective, when you speak about empirical laws, before I go into the definition, Al-Imam Nasafi, he mentioned in his Aqaid al-Nasafiyah, he spoke about Asbabul Ilm, and one of it, he mentioned, is the senses. That one of the causes of knowledge, is the five senses. The senses of the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense any of touch. So these are any the senses any that where we attain any knowledge. So this is where the empirical any laws any come about. Last session any we spoke any about the mass transmitted reports, and we mentioned that this is any one of the causes any of knowledge. Another causes of knowledge any is this empirical, which is empirical. That is, we attain knowledge any based on our senses. We attain knowledge based on our senses. After this, any we speak any about rational laws, where we attain any knowledge any rationally, which we will cover any after this. So when comes any to the ahkamul ada, the empirical any laws, it is basically speaking any about
things we observe in the world. Is it that?
Yeah, meaning the binding any factor. It is any the binding any factor any of a thing to another by ways any of repetition. By ways any of repetition. This is any the first part any of the first part any of the definition. So what does this mean? Our scholars any, for example, any they gave simple any examples like fire. Fire, we say that fire burns. We understood any that fire burns. Why? Because it is based any on our experience. Our experience any from the time any we are young until now, we see fire burns. We with our senses, yani we see any fire burns, any we touch, we understand any the heat any of the fire. So based any on that experience and based any on that repetition, we come to a conclusion. We come into a conclusion that if a tissue paper, for example, were to be thrown any in the fire, that this tissue paper any will burn. That this tissue paper any will burn. So this conclusion any is based any on empirical, meaning it is based any on our senses. It's based any on the experiments. It is based any on repetition, because now again and again any we find any this thing any occurring. So because any of this repetition, we came out any with a conclusion to say that this phenomenon yani is real. This phenomenon yani is true. That it will happen any in that manner. If we were question any why, we say because any of our experience and because any of repetition. So this is any the first part any of the empirical laws. So when we speak any about empirical laws, any we are speaking any about repetition. We are speaking about something any that we observe, that it repeats any in terms any of its occurrence. The second part of the definition any of ahkamul ada or hukmul adi speaks any about ta'thir. And we have in aqidah this notion any that is called ta'thir, the efficacy. So we say when we speak about empirical laws, despite any the occurrence any that it occurs, despite the repetitions any that happens, despite any the conclusions any that we have made, but at the end of the day, only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala possess efficacy. Yani if you ask any, for example, what is the thing any that make fire burns? We say fire, yes, any fire burns any is a fact, correct or not? Fire burns any is a fact. Any we based any on our senses, any based on our what you call it, and on our experience. So we understand that fire burns, but Islam any speaks any about what is any the efficacy. Does fire have any the efficacy any to burn? Meaning the effect any of burning. Does fire any has the ability to burn? Or it is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala who created burning in fire? So meaning if there is a fire, for example, if I take any this tissue and I throw this tissue any into the fire, this tissue paper any is burned. So we say that the fire itself any does not possess the efficacy. So if fire does not possess any the efficacy, how come and it is burning and it happens? We say Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created combustion at the point of contact. Yani when this tissue paper any contact any fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala created any burning.
He acted on it lah.
So this is what we meant by the efficacy. This is any the ta'thir. So that is why the second part any of the definition and it speaks any about efficacy. That efficacy only belongs any to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So whenever any we speak any about empirical laws, we are speaking any about something any that happens that can change because it itself any does not possess any the efficacy any to cause any the effect. So the effect any comes any from the maker. The effect any comes any from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when we say fire burns and we say this wajib adi, this is necessary, but this necessary is empirical. This necessary is empirical. So the thing about empirical necessary, which is empirical, it is something that can change. So for example, in the Quran, Allah speaks about Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, and when he was thrown into the fire, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala commanded the fire. Allah said, Ya nar kuni bardan wa salaman ala Ibrahim. And oh fire, be safe and cold for Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam.
The whole state changes, that?
Yeah. So fire, which is known to burn, now when it becomes cool. So it becomes the opposite. Because when we understand the efficacy does not belong to the fire, but the efficacy belongs to the maker of the fire. So the maker of the fire is the one who determines, determines the characteristic of his creation.
So the way saying is there are some people who believe that fire itself has the power to burn.
Yeah.
What would you call those people? Is that like what is that? What kind of belief is that?
There is this in the Western philosophy, there is this philosophy of naturalism. The philosophy of naturalism believe in the power of nature. That when fire burns, meaning they are saying that fire itself possesses the power. So they don't speak about godly intervention. Some of them are atheists they do not believe in the existence of God. And some of them believe in the existence of God, but possess that kind of philosophy.
I see.
The Greeks last time, they believe in the existence of God.
Yeah.
But what they are saying is that God has no intervention with nature. So nature happens by itself, by the power within itself. So when they speak about cause and effect, it comes from the nature itself. Nature itself possesses any power. So when they will ask, for example, how come does fire burns? So this is why they will say that fire itself has the power. Within by the fire without any godly intervention that it can burn. In Islam, we regard this as kufr, as a form of disbelief, because one of the conditions of faith in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to believe that Allah possesses all effects, meaning there is nothing that can give effect other than Allah. There is nothing in the creation that can give effect other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when a Muslim believes for example that there is something else other than Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that can give effect without the power of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, meaning power comes from the creation itself. That is a form of disbelief, and this is what Al-Imam Ahmad Dardir mentioned in Kharida Bahiyya. وَمَنْ يَقُلْ بِالطَّبَعِ أَوِ الْعِلَّةِ فَذَاكَ كُفْرٌ عِنْدَ أَهْلِ الْمِلَّةِ. Those who believes in Taba' and Illa. Taba' and Illa, basically the philosophy of naturalism, where they believe in the efficacy of the nature. He said, فَذَاكَ كُفْرٌ. He said that is a form of disbelief in the Ahlil Millati, which we do not have differences amongst the ulama, the ulama in Islam. Like nowadays, people speak about Mother Nature, correct? This is where
it comes from. I remember reading somewhere, like this person Galileo. He said that God is mathematics, something like that. He said you can't calculate everything. Everything is calculatable. I think it comes from that lah. They make God.
So he's the founder of that.
I wouldn't know. He's not the founder of that, but he is one of the proponents of that lah.
There's another thing also that is very interesting here, Ustaz. We're talking about fire. Relating back to fire. For every creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, there's the essence of it, which we will go back to the meaning. I think on the Arabic term will be the Zat. On every creation of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, there's the essence. They say like we talk about glass. Glass, there's an essence, right? Come from either clay or porcelain or whatever. When we talk about fire definitely there's an essence for fire. When going back to what they have studied before, the essence of fire it's a burning contingent, right? But how can we understand, or how can we make people understand that the influence is not by the essence? The influence is by Allah Subhanahu wa Taala who provide the effect.
Yeah, this is a good question. You see, the thing is, logically, when we say something is contingent, something that is contingent, meaning if something comes into existence after non-existence, it does not possess power by itself. It is a creation. It is a creation. So the characteristic of a creation is that it does not possess any power by itself. Because if you say that it possesses any power by itself, it cannot bring itself into existence. So there is this originator. there is this any originator any who brought it into existence. So when we understand that something any is contingent, automatically any we understand that it does not possess any power any by itself. You see, the Greek and the philosophers last time, when they speak any about naturalism, they say that God exists. They say any that God exists because now any they are saying any that nature has power. Nature has power. But if they were to say that nature is a creation, then it's going to be difficult any to come out any with such any a theory that since any it is a creation, since it's contingent, then how come any it possess any power any by itself?
By itself, correct.
When it doesn't have power to bring itself into existence in the first place.
Yes.
So they came out any with a theory in the books of Aqidah, we call it the theory of Illah.
Okay.
But it is something any that is strange that but still people believe. They are saying any that nature comes into existence with the existence any of God. Nature comes into existence any with the existence any of God. So there is any a binding between the existence any of nature and the existence any of the existence any of God. So from there they say that there is no godly intervention. But of course any this is any illogical to come out any with such any theory which has no evidence any for basis any for it. But ala kulli hal, this is what any they said. So our scholars any have what you call it written books any against this. And this is any one of the things any that is quite tough in the sense that, you know, if you really any want to rebut and to speak any about these things. But if a person any says any that the world any is contingent, fire is contingent, fire is something any that is created, so it doesn't possess power any by itself. So the power any belongs any to the one any who brings it any into existence, the maker, the one any who design any its characteristic. But who is any the one any that makes any fire burns? Who is the one any who gave any fire the characteristics?
Give it its laws, it says.
Yes. Who is the one any who created any all these empirical laws? That when you are hungry, when you eat any certain food, you become full. That when you are thirsty, you drink any water, your thirst any will be quenched. And who is the one any who created any this laws any of causality? This cause and effect. So it is any the originator. It is impossible that contingencies any has this efficacy. So logically, any this is what any what do you call it? This is what any we are saying.
Because I always like to go back into something that I can relate as a person. I mean, I learn about engineering, Ustaz. I mean, something that I can relate back to engineering. I learn more about electrical engineering, more on high voltage power. So I learn about substation, then after that power station, then generator where it generate the electricity itself. So for our household to operate, definitely it have to come from a source, which is the electrical room from every building. Then for every building to operate, it has to come from a substation. Then the source getting bigger and bigger bigger.
Power plant.
Power plant. That's the ultimate source. But even for power plant, for it to generate
you need the
energy,
oil and that kind of stuff.
you need the coal. Or you need I mean, like you mentioned, oil. So you need people to operate, like, you know, all that kind of engineering stuff. So that you always require a higher power for it to function. So can we relate that to empirical laws?
Yes, of course. Yes, of course. You see, every effect and it has a cause. This is any a logical any argument. When we speak any about the laws any of cause any effect. So when we look at the bigger picture, when we look any at the universe, when we look any at this existence, this we mentioned many a times that it is any contingent, that we have understood that it is any contingent, but surely there is any a higher power any that brings it any into into existence. So this is any crucial for us any Muslims any to understand, especially when we study science, because a lot any of scientific any theories are empirical. For example, people any observe any certain phenomenon happening, so they try
like
to understand, like gravity, for example. They try any to understand and to come out with theories why this thing is happening. Why any if I hold any something, it will fall. So people witness this. We say this is any effect. This is something any that you witness any by your senses that you see. And many people any witness any the same thing. But the challenge is to come out with theories and how to explain. So the how, this is where the hypothesis and the theories come about.
This is a scientific method.
The scientific method. So when we look at the Western scientific method, when they saw something as a fact that is happening in the real world, that's what they mentioned, something that happens in the real world, just like we mentioned about fire. Fire burns and it is a fact, correct or not? Fire burns and it is a fact. Water and it quench the thirst, it is a fact. Correct or not? Food makes you full. And if you're hungry, then if you eat, then your hunger and it will disappear. That is any effect. But the scientists they look further. They say, what about the how? What about the how? And how does this happen? And how does water any quench any your thirst? How does food any make you full? How does any gravity any operates? Any what's happening? When you put something in the air, it comes down.
So they try to rationalize those Ustaz.
No, they try to come out with explanations.
Explanation of
so
why.
This is the meaning of hypothesis and theories.
How.
So theories is the bigger picture. Hypothesis is basically is a particular statement or particular.
If you allow me, Ustaz, I think we can show to our viewers on the hypothesis diagram. So at least our viewers have a rough idea what is hypothesis concept. So maybe we get our beloved producer to show. Okay, hypothesis. Okay. Maybe Barak, you want to share with this since you are the science spear here.
So basically, hypothesis. I'm just gonna read whatever is on the screen.
Please, bro.
So hypothesis is basically the scientific method. So there's how they come up with it is they have a procedure, which is experiments, and then from the experiments they come up with the data. They have the data of the experiments, and then from the data. They have concluded from the experiments, they come up with a conclusion, whatever they have discovered from the data, and then from that conclusions, they create a hypothesis of what could explain how it happened. So example would be like Ustaz was mentioning gravity. Like we started off the gravity like Newton. Isaac Newton had his own understanding of what gravity was. So like it was a pushing force, right?
Okay.
And then after that, Isaac Newton came with the general relativity, special relative theory, which says it's a whole different story.
Okay.
So it's like what we're saying is that like we all agree that things fall.
Yes.
Right. But the scientists, we discover that scientists always change on how, and then they have new that was that
When they change, Barak.
When they discover with the advancement of science, for example.
So do we have a what does a Muslim position think? Like for example, like one time we Isaac had his perspective, and then now a Muslim lives in that time. So we believe in gravity, in that school of thought, and then it changes over time. How does a Muslim deal with this new scientific advancements? We say that.
Yeah, because the thing is, nobody possess the absolute knowledge to what is happening in the universe, and you find many verses in the Quran and by the thousands. If you go back into the Quran, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala speaks about the universe. Allah told us to ponder upon the universe. Inna fi khalqis samawati wal ardi wa ikhtilafil layli wan nahari la ayatin li ulil albab. So in the creation of the skies, in the creation of the earth, in the creation of the night and day, these are signs for those who possess any intelligence. Meaning, Allah Subhanahu wa Taala is telling human beings the importance of studying this phenomenon, these creations of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, to understand the greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But at the end of the day, the human intellect has limitations. The human intellect has limitations. There are a lot of things that we cannot understand.
I see.
So people can try their best for example to do experiments to come out with theories and hypotheses and all these things. But of course there are limitations.
Yes.
So after sometimes somebody else will come and they will add on to it, or they will refute it, for example. So this is basically the challenge for human beings in understanding the creations of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. But what is true is basically when we observe the things that we observe by our senses, for example, as what and we mentioned, and this is the causes of knowledge within the Islamic epistemology. We are saying one of the causes of knowledge is by our senses. But when it comes into theories, people make mistakes in any those
how they describe that phenomenon. How's that?
And in those theories also the Sharia law also is applicable because we have any explanations, for example, from the Quran on a certain phenomenon, for example. We have explanations from the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam on any certain things. If something contradicts the Quran, for example, contradict the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, what you call it, we have to give precedence to the Quran and the Sunnah. And the thing and the beauty about Islam is that the Quran and the Sunnah is not against rationality, meaning it is in par, with rationality. So Islam is not a religion that tells you to believe in something, and even it go against what you call it, established
facts,
rational laws, for example. So there is no difference between what you call it, what is established in what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned and what is happening in reality.
Can I just pull you on that? Because I think what you're trying to say is that when you say science, you say contradict, is that because the fact that scientific so-called facts changes all the time. It changes
the
all
limitations is the human being. It's in the human beings.
No. So we cannot put full conviction in the so-called scientists discover this new theory, for example. We cannot say this is 100% true.
It's a theory.
It's a theory because it always changes. Of course, you come up with new polished ideas, but in actual fact, it cannot you cannot say this is 100% confirmed.
So that means their theory is still debatable, lah.
Of course. The data you use out your interpretation, lah.
But when we speak about scientific fact, this is the thing. The empirical laws comes in. When we speak about a scientific fact, we say this wajib adi. How they come with a scientific fact based on repetition. Based on experimentation, and they come to the conclusion that this fact is something that is true according to their investigations and according to the repetitions and all these things. So when we speak about scientific fact, this is where we speak about hukmul adi. So when we say wajib adi, for example, we say fire burns. Fire burns is a fact. Correct or not? Fire burns is a fact. So we say this is wajib adi. This is necessary, but the necessary is empirical. So what does it mean when we say necessary is empirical? Meaning it can change. Even fact can change. This is, I think, the point of difference between us and some what you call it,
the naturalists, you were saying.
especially any naturalists, and some people are saying for example scientific facts are absolute, meaning they can never change. That once you have established the conclusion and based on your findings and all these things, that it can never change. But here we are saying this is empirical. This is the empirical laws that can change.
I see.
Because at the end of the day, the one who gives the efficacy is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So the one who makes such things works as they are is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So this is the subject of the empirical laws. So when we speak about science, when we speak about scientific facts, a lot of it are the empirical laws. Of course, not all of it, because some of it are based on mathematical calculations, and these are the rational laws which we will speak about. But when we speak about experimentations and repetitions and all these things, all these fall within the empirical laws.
This is very interesting. I think, Barak, you have something that you want to share with our viewers and our listeners, relating back to gravity. Just now you mentioned that Isaac Newton have discovered the theory behind.
He gave a different angle on whatever it was.
Then you ever mentioned before that Einstein have his own theory on that, was on gravity itself. So maybe you want to share.
So it started with Isaac Newton. He have his own theory of why is a pulling force, and then after that, very interesting. Isaac Newton, when Einstein, he said that space takes up space. Space and time is actually a force by itself. It takes up space also. So like Isaac, instead of it will just be floating. The mass of the object is actually like, if you could have
Pulling.
Like if for example you take like a bed, example put a bed, right?
Okay.
You put your bed katil, and then you put a bowling ball in the center.
Okay.
So it creates an indentation, right?
Yes.
So it's like that lah. So like space and time is actually, it's a bed, and then you put for example Earth, right? You put Earth as the middle of the bed, it will go in. So Isaac Newton did not believe in this. He did not take this into account. He did not believe space and time is a matter by itself.
So he have a different theory to back him up.
But then Einstein said no, space and time is a matter by itself. So it changes. So it like basically flipped it around lah, you know. Instead of like a pulling force, is a mass by itself, you know.
Then where is the part where they mention that their theory is absolute?
I think this is what Ustaz was mentioning lah. You know, like for like when we like Islam, like we see all of these laws, we see it with our eyes. You know, we can see everything, we experience it. But the point is, we never take Allah out of the picture. You know, we recognize that it happens, but Allah is the one who acts on it. But these guys try to remove
the element
God out of this picture. I think that is the main problem. Is that what you said?
Yes. Speaking about gravity, and for example, when we speak about empirical laws, okay, now and if you ask any this question, if we have any a bottle, if I ask any this question, if I were to throw any the bottle, will any the bottle any fall? If I ask any this question, this is where the empirical laws any comes in. So we will say, for example, based any on our experience and based any on our findings, that it will fall. It will fall. But is it impossible that if you throw any this bottle, that it will not fall?
It's not impossible.
Is it impossible? Meaning, are we saying any that it is absolute in a sense that everything must
fall?
From
our experience is that it must fall outside.
So based on our experience, we have been throwing things. For example, it will fall. Correct, no? But it is not impossible that it will not fall. So this is the thing about hukmul adi. So we say that that things and it will fall. We say wajib adi. Wajib adi, why? Based on experience. So based on experience, we say it is necessary and that this bottle adi will fall. But it is not impossible that if the bottle adi does not fall.
Why do we talk about this, Ustaz, in Islam? Like, why is this hukum
So
adi
important.
important in Islam?
Okay, so that we are aware that efficacy belongs to Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. Do not be deluded by the dunya. This has a notion with tasawwuf.
mashallah.
You know, the Sufis, they always say that do not Allah said in the Quran, bal tu'siruna al-hayat ad-dunya. Yani you are always Allah said influenced by this world. Wal akhiratu khayrun wa abqa. Because this dunya is zina. Allah said in for example in Surah Al-Mulk, when he speak about the universe, tabarakalladhi biyadihi al-mulku wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir alladhi khalaqa al-mauta wal hayata liyabluwakum ayyukum ahsanu amala alladhi khalaqa sab'a samawatin tibaqa ma tara fi khalqi rahmani min tafawut. Every time Allah speaks about creation, Allah speaks about his greatness. Yani Allah said, do not you see how Allah created the universe. Do you not see there is not a single shortcoming in the creations of Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala? Everything is placed in perfection. So do not be deluded by what you see, but focus your intention on the one who brought it into existence and the one who is maintaining it.
I think there has been this
So this is a
illusion.
test. Another thing is, it is a test for us. It is a test. For example, if you are thirsty, you drink water, your quench and it is your thirst and it is quenched. Your thirst and it is quenched. So if you do not have iman, meaning if you do not have any this understanding, and you will be thinking that water and is one that quench any my thirst. So Allah is testing you. Allah is testing you, and the Quran is saying that all these things and they do not have any efficacy. It is Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala. So again, and it is a matter of faith. It is a matter of faith. Of course, logically also, and we can, as what we mentioned, and we can prove it. That since it is a contingency, what you call it, there is an originator and to it.
The interesting part was that is like it makes sense now why we say Bismillah when we drink. Right.
Correct.
Is to
yes, this is a good one. You see, when we speak about Bismillah, our scholars and they say ba lil isti'ana. Bismillah, the Arab and for ba.
Some people say ba tabarruk.
Some say musahaba. But it is interesting, and that when it is important for us also to look at the angle of isti'anah. When we say Bismillah, say ba lil isti'anah, meaning before I drink, it is a sunnah for me to say Bismillah. What is the meaning of Bismillah? Ba hiya lil isti'anah, meaning asta'inu billah. I am seeking the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the action that I am going to do. Because then we understand that it is Allah who gives the efficacy. When we want to eat, when we want to eat, we ask Allah for assistance in the action. Because why? We believe efficacy belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Not the ta'am, not any the food, not any the water, not any the shirt that we wear. But everything comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
It becomes a worship, is that?
Yeah, it is a form of ibadah.
When you put that into your drinking and your eating, it becomes a worship for yourself. Everything.
Yes. And subhanallah, you find the Quran begins with basmalah. The Quran, the whole of the Quran begins with Bismillah. Begins with isti'anah. And we also recite in Surah Al-Fatiha isti'anah. We say iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. The scholars of Tasawwuf, they say iyyaka na'budu is ibadah, iyyaka nasta'in is ubudiyah. So there must be two things in the life of Muslim: worship and ubudiyah. Worshipping Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and having this servitude, this characteristic of servitude. That you believe submission, that you believe that everything happens by Allah. Not you. That you do not have the efficacy. Nothing else has the efficacy. So this is one of the very important aspects in Islam.
It's so interesting that is like with our scholars, even when we go into all these details about empirical laws, the point of it is not just for the fun of just looking at all this information and just giving the how, but is to give meaning of the why, is to give more meaning to, even so, like that's why we have great scientists like before, is that all these great scientists who discovered astronomy. They not discovered, they give more meaning to the astronomy. There's so many stars named after Arab stars, right?
Yes.
It's because they wanted to know more about Allah. It wasn't like
there's no worldly gains.
They wanted to don't want to remove Allah from the picture. They wanted to know more about the creation. Is that like
because of the Quran actually. Because how are you able to understand the Quran? There are thousands of verses about science in the Quran. How are you able to understand these verses if you don't go into it? The Quran speaks about astronomy. How are you able to understand? You understand the verses that speaks about astronomy when you don't study astronomy. The Quran speaks about biology, about any physics, and so on and so forth. So because they want to study the Quran, and this verse speaks about the science. That is why they go in detail to study about the phenomenon about it. But sadly, a lot of people are deluded because of learning science. They are deluded by the outer manifestation of what they see in the empirical sense. Meaning they are deluded by their own empirical senses. That they do not see the greatness of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the maker of this.
I realize you said
so people are deluded. For example, people are saying that if you are a Muslim, you are backward in science. For example, people have this understanding that in order for you to be progressive in this modern world or this postmodern world, then you have to study science as what the West. The West and the perspective of the West and the perspective of science.
I think what's the godless perspective of science.
But of course we have to be fair. Not all
Westerners have got that godless perspective.
What you call it, atheists.
They
have some of them are devoted into their religion. But yet they have this understanding when it comes to science, how they deal with science. But the thing about Islam is mashallah, we find there are no contradictions in the Quran when it comes to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for example, speaking about the science and speaking about astronomy and so on and so forth. and we find the what you call it, the modern discoveries. A lot of it coincide with the Quran. Today, people are speaking about the Big Bang. People are speaking about that the universe is expanding.
Yes.
The Quran clearly said that the universe is expanding. Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala say, "Was sama'a banaynaha bi aidin wa inna lamusi'un." We are constantly expanding in the universe. Just a few decades ago, someone mentioned that actually the universe is expanding, and based on their observation. Based on their observation, they make this conclusion. But the fact that the Quran mentioned this 1,400 years ago, and there are many. Correct or not? The Quran speaks about the fetus, how the fetus is developed in the human body. The Quran speaks about how Allah bring this universe into existence. Today, people are speaking about the Big Bang Theory and so on and so forth.
I have a question, Ustaz. I think we can open this question for discussion here, including Barak here. For most scientists, or for those science geek or science lovers out there, they will look into science topics in great awe, right? They will say that this is like the highest level of knowledge that they can ever possess in their lifetime. Then going back to the revolution, where the postmodern or in fact the modern world, where they introduce science and into people's lifestyle, and people would deviate away from religion, Ustaz. Is it because their main core is that science is so relevant, where they have complete control to calculate and introduce new elements? Okay, talking from let's say we give an example. Let's say you give an example like from a biochemical kind of approach. Me, let's say if I a very scientific person, I will introduce a new element. I say, okay, I just mix a bit of this, mix a bit of that with proper calculation. I can introduce a new element to the world. With that kind of discovery, right? It will make them feel so powerful, man. You know, like, wow, I make a very great discovery here.
Okay.
So with that, that's why they have this mentality, Ustaz. They don't need Allah's kind of
I see. I get what you're trying to say.
They don't need Allah's help anymore. So
because they discovered the
and
calculations.
Their followers have the same mentality. See?
I get what you're trying to say.
What do you think, Barak? Before we can shift this question to Ustaz.
I get what you're trying to say. It's like because they discovered the how, they can manipulate it, and then they can create new things out of it.
Yes,
I remember Sheikh Hamzah said something. You said one story. He said there was a biologist who asked this question lah, and he was saying like we now can create things in the lab already. And then the biologist went to God and said, I've left you, I don't need you. Because you have created things, we have created our own things. And they say, how do you created all of this? Where was the start? It started from dust. And then say, where you get this dust from? They say, go get your own dust. So like, end of the day, these guys are giving, they fail to realize, like even though
the slightest thing,
you create your own new things, where was the asal from? Where's the source from? You had to use things from the earth, right? You did not create something out of the earth. It's not something that you suddenly plug out of non-existence and you make it into existence.
But these people, they have motivation and vision where they can control the future. You see, they can. If I can discover how to clone an animal, the next step will be how can I clone a human being? That kind of progress.
There's this one.
It can be dangerous to human civilization itself.
I remember reading this one book. There's one guy called Brian Appleyard. It's called The End of Science. Very interesting book. Maybe the readers can have a look. It's a very interesting book. You should read it. It's called The End of Science. So he said in that book, he said the ultimate quest of science is to be able to calculate everything. Because he said if I can calculate everything or prove everything, the source, I can be God. He said like God is the what pool table. You put the pool ball and he hit the first billiard ball and then everything is calculatable. So he said the point of these people, these atheists, they want to be able to prove that they can calculate God. So they can prove that what will happen in the future. what happened in the past, and all the consciousness lah. But I think this thing is very interesting, like science is, I think one of the things that you were watching, like people feel that when people say scientists has discovered things, we automatically feel it's a fact, scientists cannot be wrong.
The followers would.
But then the truth is, we have seen by our experience, we can follow science. Like what I've learned from whatever I saying, we can understand science and agree with things, but
in academic level lah.
No, we can also, but correct me if I'm wrong, but we must know its limitations. Like how far we can put our trust in it. We say that? We say that?
Yeah, we understand that the efficacy and it belongs to Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. Allah created any things, and He is the one who designed and make it such things that it happens in the way they are happening.
Yeah.
So this is what we call the scientific fact.
Yeah.
When we ourselves witness such things happen. So based on those facts, we attain any knowledge. So there is no problem in that, and we are encouraged to seek that knowledge. Now this is the thing we have to understand when we speak about this knowledge. It is encouraged in Islam. And you find the Quran, as what I mentioned, encourage Muslims to go and study. That is why there's a lot of Muslim scientists in the past. We have doctors and so on and so forth, because of the importance of this knowledge. So we have to emphasize that this knowledge is important. This knowledge it brings about understanding Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, meaning understanding His attributes. Because all these are effects of His power.
Yes.
So when you study this phenomenon, you understand the greatness of His power. In that sense.
You make medicine.
But as what you mentioned earlier, where people become deluded by their knowledge. They felt that
is the problem.
Yes, they felt that they have discovered this and they have discovered that, and they see the greatness in themselves. And they are deluded by themselves, and they forgot the Creator and the one who brought this into existence. And sadly, many Muslims are also influenced by such inclinations. The other time when we spoke about modernism, one of the things that modernism, what do you call it, always proud about and always speaks is about how they are able to bring about the industrial revolution, for example, how they are able to bring about scientific discoveries, how they are able to bring about any inventions. As a result, many Muslims become confused because of this, and felt that there's something wrong in Islam, that why Muslims are backward in that sense,
like
why
not compatible with science.
Yes. So that becomes an issue at one point of time, and it has been becoming an issue today, especially when Muslims they don't learn their religion well. So they become influenced by this understanding and this inclination. So that is why in the world that we are living in today as Muslims, we have to understand the perspective of Islam. We have to understand this knowledge of Aqidah, and the greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, and the definition of science, or the definition of scientific fact, and the efficacy of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala in things. So when we use our empirical senses, when you look at things, we look at the Islamic perspective. Meaning when you look at things happening around you, you understand that Allah is behind everything.
Don't forget the Bismillah, was that?
Yeah, Bismillah. So this is ubudiyah. This is ubudiyah. This is the meaning of ubudiyah in Islam. That you believe that you are in need of Allah. So Islam emphasizes this important characteristic, that you always feel that you are faqirun ilallah. So we have this concept in Islam, the concept of al-faqr. Al-faqr is to believe that we do not possess anything, that everything belongs to Allah, everything happens by Allah, and this is a concept of ubudiyah. And our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the best example. And if you study the life of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he always look at the greatness of Allah Subhanahu wa Taala. He doesn't look at his greatness, and in everything he does, and he taught us the importance of dependency to Allah, and not dependency on the asbab. Because asbab can change.
Yes.
This is empirical. Asbab ini can what we call it, asbab ini can change, and asbab is a creation, makhluk. Allah yani is the one yani who make the asbab function. So Islam yani speaks any beyond that, beyond any the asbab. How yani these things any function and that thing function.
MashaAllah, I think this episode we have covered nearly, I think, half of what we want to discuss.
Oh my God.
I think more to discuss on the empirical laws. I think we will not want to rush this episode for to cover everything, because we haven't even touched on like parts of like from the kitab Al-Mukarram, where Imam Sanusi relate to the 4 categories of
we also
adi.
haven't gone into the 3 parts of ahkamul ada. Empirical laws in Islam is divided into 3 parts. We have the necessary, the impossible, and the possible. So earlier I only gave the example of wajib adi.
Wow.
Wajib adi is what we say, like
blah, blah, blah.
a scientific fact. And then we have the mustahil adi. If it doesn't work that way, that is impossible, but impossible based on empirical. Impossible based on empirical. And then we have the jaiz.
Inshallah, I mean we will cater the next episode to elaborate further on this.
There's 2 other stuff, man. There's 2 more things.
2 more things, and then the 4 categories that Imam Sanusi mentioned in kitab Muqaddimat, and more stuff to come lah.
Wow, interesting.
And then just to wrap up for this episode,
I feel like I'm in a scientific library.
just to wrap up on this episode, I think I think everything happened for a reason. When I met my nephew 3 days ago, and we had this conversation while having lunch, Ustaz. Then I mean, out of curiosity, I just asked my nephew, say, do you learn about atoms like proton, neutrons, right? Then can you explain to me what is the smallest particle that ever exists? Then he come out this it's very surprising because for 12 years old, he managed to like share this information with me. Even I myself don't know about it. So he talked about method particles.
Method particles.
No, method particles. I don't know. M-A-T-T-E-R. Matter particles. So I myself also don't know about this. When I was in primary school, I did not scale to that heights in scientific discoveries.
Our scholars spoke about this 1,000 years ago.
MashaAllah.
They call this Jawharul Fard. Jawharul Fard. This is the smallest any particle. This is the smallest particle, the indivisible element. Meaning you cannot divide it any further. A lot of books, translations, and they mention it atoms, but actually they are things that is smaller than
Inshallah, on the next episode we will definitely touch on this if
opportunity arrives.
Because you see, our scholars any last time when they speak any about creations, about the contingencies, they go to the smallest particle. So, for example, when they speak about water, they go to the smallest any particle because water is made up of particles.
H2O lah.
H2O. Smallest any particles.
Two particles of hydrogen.
So they go to the smallest any particle.
MashaAllah.
So who is the one who designed the smallest?
MashaAllah.
And gave any that properties and characteristic that define any this thing. This is what last time also we learned in chemistry, right? That all these things made up of atoms, and then you have the molecules, and then within the atoms itself, and you have the protons, and then you have the neutrons, electrons. And then the electrons is
it's a complete cycle.
Circulating, and subhanallah, this mentioned by the scholars of Kalam to speak about the contingency argument, because one of the things is that something that moves is contingent. Something that moves is contingent.
MashaAllah.
So much more to explain, man.
You feel very hyped today tonight, right, Ustaz?
You watch the movie Click, no, before?
Click, yes.
Click, fast forward.
Adam Sandler. No, I think like we are in the movie of Beautiful Minds.
Wow.
Yeah. So all the suddenly like all the equation all start to come out. Mashallah. Thank you so much, Ustaz, for this lovely discussion and also guidance from you, Ustaz. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Jazakumullah khair. I hope my explanations any kind of clear on the definition and on the
Alhamdulillah.
If anything not clear, please ask us in the.
because
You can,
anyway, next episode we give some more examples.
Yeah.
Inshallah. For those who have questions, please do not
Hesitate.
do not hesitate, and please fill in your question on our Facebook chat, or also on YouTube channel. And inshallah, we will see you guys on the next episode. Signing off from Coffee Ustaz, I'm your host Indra Sahip.
Mubarak Shah. Thank
See
you
you
guys.
guys. Assalamualaikum.